TikTok is going to be banned in the United States on January 19th unless the Supreme Court intervenes. It is scheduled for oral argument on January 10th, which is going to give them 9 whole days to intervene. I've just spent my first day back at work after the holidays doing a deep dive into this TikTok ban because I am fascinated. At heart, I'm a law nerd, so I just can't help it. I am intellectually just very interested in what is probably the most important free speech case of our lifetime. So now that I've read all 3 briefs that have been submitted to the United States Supreme Court, I'm going to information dump to all of you. If that's something that you're interested in, follow along. We're going to talk First Amendment law. This will be a lengthy series. There's a lot to cover. And ultimately on January 10th, I'm going to go live where we're going to listen to the Supreme Court argument together. We can't watch it on TV because that's not allowed at the United States Supreme Court. So instead, I'm going to live stream it where we can hear it together. I can answer any questions that you might have. First, I'm going to do some videos that are going to lay the groundwork, the basics that you need to know so that you understand what you're listening to when we do that live on January 10th and you hear the oral arguments in front of the United States Supreme Court. For starters, there's been a lot of good arguments against the TikTok ban, but the United States Supreme Court says they only want to hear about one thing. They want to hear about the First Amendment. Let's look at the question that the United States Supreme Court very specifically said that they want addressed when those oral arguments happen on January 10th. This is from the court's order that said that it was going to hear this on January 10th and set up the briefing schedule. And it specifically said the parties are directed to brief and argue the following question. They didn't let the parties set their own question, which is usually more typical. This time the court said they want the parties to brief and argue whether the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, also known as the TikTok ban, as applied to petitioners. The petitioners in this case are going to be ByteDance, TikTok US, and a group of creators, violates the First Amendment, period. That's it. That's the only thing that they want to hear about. So that said, let's look at the First Amendment because that's all that the United States Supreme Court is going to be interested in. The First Amendment, we're going to read it word for word because it's important. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The thereof there applies to religion. Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's the First Amendment. So the question is, does the TikTok ban violate this First Amendment? If this is something that you're interested in, follow along because we're going to go through all 3 briefs. We're going to go through the relevant case law, the relevant standards. There's going to be a big debate about which standard gets applied. We're also going to talk about who has submitted amicus briefs because a lot of people have submitted amicus briefs and we're going to talk about which side they submitted for. It's really interesting. If you're a law nerd like me, follow along. We're going to do a deep dive.